All right, it looks like we can go ahead and get started. Hello again, my name is Kira Sobers and I am the Media Digitization Manager at the Smithsonian Libraries and Archives. At the Smithsonian Institution Archives is part of the Smithsonian Libraries and Archives, where we collect, preserve, and share the history of the Smithsonian Institution. On behalf of the archives, it is my pleasure to welcome you to today's program and the 13th and final installment in the Smithsonian 175th Film Fest, films from the Smithsonian Institution Archives. Before we get started, I want to gratefully acknowledge the Piscataway people on whose ancestral homelands I live, as well as the diverse and vibrant Native communities who make their home here. I encourage everyone to learn more about the historic and current Native communities in the area you call home through your local museums and centers, as well as through the Smithsonian's National Museum of the American Indian. And now for a few details about how this will all work. The chat box is where we'll be communicating with you throughout the program and where we'll post links as they come up in the discussion. If you're having technical problems, please send a private chat to either myself, Kira Sobers, or Emily Neckrish, my co-coordinator today, and we will try to help you out. If you have any questions throughout the program, we encourage you to put them in the Q&A box and we will answer them towards the end of the program. For today's presentation, we'll be screening two films about the Smithsonian's 150th birthday celebration. The first one is a very short little promo video for the 150th, and then the second one is a longer film featuring the birthday celebration itself. Our speakers today will be Linda Schmitz-Fierig and Mignon Davis. Linda Schmitz-Fierig is the digital archivist at the Smithsonian Libraries and Archives with the Digital Curation Program. With almost 20 years of experience, she is responsible for the long-term access and preservation of any archival collection items that include digital video, audio, images, email, and Smithsonian websites, just to name a few. Linda has a master's degree in history from the University of Illinois, Springfield. And Mignon Davis is a volunteer at the National Museum of Natural History, and she is the filmmaker for today's feature film, and we will learn a little bit more about her later. But for the moment, I'm going to turn it over to Linda to provide a little bit more information about the films.
Thank you, Kira. Hello, everyone. I am really happy to present our final screening today to close out the 175th anniversary of the Smithsonian Film Fest. And I'm thrilled that the filmmaker and narrator, Mignon, is with us today. Yes, we love a good party. And in August of 1996, there was good reason to have one. We are looking back to the 150th celebration, specifically the event on the National Mall. The weather was beautiful that day on August 10th, which was great for Washington, D.C. during our hot summers. There were exhibit tents, musical performances, including Aretha Franklin, Ray Charles, and Buffy Sainte-Marie. And there were even 19 birthday cakes on display. The cake of the Smithsonian Castle was a whooping 100 pounds. For this milestone, the Smithsonian even had a nationwide touring exhibition of 300 iconic items, including the ruby slippers, moon rocks, and a Vinfizz airplane. The National Portrait Gallery had an exhibit based on the year of the founding called 1846, Portrait of a Nation. It included a selection of about 200 portraits, including Frederick Douglass and Henry David Thoreau, and their contemporaries, as well as other objects exploring the mindset of the day. The video we have was shot by Mignon on a Sony Hi8 camcorder. Hi8 was introduced in 1989. We do have the Hi8 tape as well in our collections, but as you can imagine, this type of equipment is hard to get these days. The video was later transferred to DVD in 2009 and then given to the archives by Don Davis in 2019 as part of his records. Don, former entomology chair at the National Museum of Natural History, is Mignon's husband and an entomology research emeritus at the Smithsonian. They both continue to contribute to the Smithsonian and volunteer roles at the National Museum of Natural History. Other recordings from Mignon include the Bug Fest, it is what it sounds like, from the 1990s, and the inaugural of the National Museum of the American Indian here in Washington, D.C. Digital video at the archives is either digitized from film or tape, like today's recording, or it is an digital format already from the start, and this is known as born digital or digitally born. Think of a video that you may have made on your phone today. Digital materials are tricky for archives, especially video. Our best practice is to copy it immediately because we might not be able to access it in a month, a year, or more. For instance, most computers do not have DVD players anymore. And with video, it's a bit of the Wild West. With a word processing document, we use PDF as the preservation format. With digital video, there is not a standard preservation format. It's complicated by various components for video and audio segments, as well as containers and wrappers, formats and types, and codecs are very important for the playback. For this particular DVD, there's a set of files that make up the parts of the video, and this is known as an authored DVD. So our procedures are to create what is known as an ISO disk image for the playback on our servers. And this disk image is essentially a container of all the files from that DVD, and it kind of replicates it when you go back to play it. The image file also allows us to have menus that are sometimes present at the beginning of a DVD that you may see. What also made me very happy about this collection was the excellent metadata with the DVDs. We knew who made it because Mignon's name was clearly written on the DVD label. Most of the time when we receive videos, we know what office it came from or which museum, but we don't know who actually made the video. The entire video that we have today is 1 hour and 45 minutes, and we have selected various clips from it to give you a sense of that special celebration. Everything from visiting the National Museum of Natural History to seeing the fireworks at the end. Please note that the sound may be a bit low at times. And before Mignon's video, we do have a special treat that Kira mentioned. So let's go ahead and begin.
With the stroke of a pen, British scientist James Smithson began a legacy that has sparked the world's imagination for 150 years.
The Hope Diamond is the most visited museum object in the world. Of all the gems in our vault, none will capture your imagination like the one you're about to see.
They're all so beautiful.
And here's the greatest treasure of all.
Can I?
The Hope Diamond, the largest deep blue diamond in the world.
Your turn. Imagine what's waiting for you at the Smithsonian. It started with the stroke of a pen, and look where it's led. The Smithsonian, celebrating 150 years. It's all real, it's all free, and it's all yours.
image file for this particular image, and this is the full size. The original image resides on a photo CD disc, which I don't have here. And you can zoom in on now if we go to the detail frame, which one was that? Did I lose it? No, this is, well, what I should do is just bring it up. Just bring it down. That has blankets stuff on there.
Now you can see here that the bone's very thin in the nose area. In fact, it's broken through on this specimen.
This is a,
Now,
what do we call this, a distal view or an anterior view
interior view.
or anterior view of the skull, of a cross section of the skull. And here it is on a CAT scan, you say?
Yeah,
A view from an X-ray.
yep.
And this X-ray is this mummy. The X-ray does not show any sutures in the head. Those things should have dissolved in time.
That image was
Here we are in Constitution Avenue at the site of the Martian meteorite. Today is the first day of its exhibit at this locality. On today, the 150th anniversary of the signing of the bill that began the Smithsonian Institution. It is believed by various scientific methods that one-celled, unicelled animal fossils are on this rock, the first life outside this planet. Okay, we have with us today Roxy Layborn, the renowned feather specialist of the Natural History Museum. Roxy, how did you get started working on feathers for the Smithsonian?
As a child, I was interested in natural history, and I like birds or anything that crawled or flew. And so I kept up the interest all through school. And when I went off to college, I wanted then majored in general science and math, because then I decided I wanted to go into aeronautical engineering. And then I ended up working in a museum and doing a small museum. You do anything. You work with fishes, reptiles, birds, and all. And I enjoyed that. You also had exhibit work, and you did some painting and preparing exhibits.
So you did a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I got it. So and take plant ecology and evolution at GW. So because if you had a major in zoology, you had to have a minor in botany.
So what year did you come to the Smithsonian officially?
I came to Smithsonian in 1946. I stayed 1 year, and then my appointment was renewed. Dr. Webber was responsible for my coming, and so then my appointment was renewed, and then in 1948, may have my dates wrong, but anyway, 2 years later, I went to work for Fish and Wildlife, and Dr. Aldrich was my supervisor, and that so I worked on, still working on birds. I was in the bird division, and just worked on birds then, and when I went transferred to Fish and Wildlife, I worked on birds and mammals too, but mainly on birds. And then when FAA wanted to start a study on bird strikes in the late 50s, I did some fell identification FAA then, and then in 1960 when they had crash at Logan International Airport, that was lectures flew into Fokker Starlings, and there was a number of black people on the aircraft. And then we had to identify that material, and so since I was doing microscopic work in my studies at GW, did the microscopic work. That was bird names, and so after that, Dr. Morris turned over to me, so I could do the research.
I came here in 1971 under Secretary Ripley, and I was one of the first women with a degree in our department, and it was fantastic. I mean, they didn't even know that I was a woman because of the way my name was spelled. I guess they thought they hired a man. Do you have any experiences like that from when you first came?
I never did. I don't know why, but I didn't get that kind of. I never had that kind of problem.
You felt like an equal in every way, huh? Well, it is a very liberating place. I will agree.
Accepted. In fact, one of the places I worked, they said, "I don't think of you. I just think of you for your work," and that's the way I've always been, more or less been good most of the time.
Well, thank you very much for this interview. It's indeed a pleasure on this, the day, the exact day, the 150th birthday of the signing of the law, the bill that became a law that created the Smithsonian Institution, signed by President Polk 150 years ago. Happy birthday, Smithsonian. Independence Avenue at about 7:30 p.m.
All right. That was excellent. I hope everybody enjoyed that. Welcome back from 1996. Mignon started at Natural History in 1971 in the entomology department, and then became a volunteer in 1979 to have flexibility to be with her young children. Mignon, thank you so much for joining us today. Want to know, what was the catalyst for making this video and other Smithsonian videos?
I just like to videotape everything that was interesting, that was historical, that was special. And the Smithsonian is just, there's so many things.
Yes, yes. What brought you to the Smithsonian?
Well, I was a student of Doctors Board, DeLong, and Triplehorn, all at Ohio State University, and Dr. Jack Clark was chairman of entomology in the Smithsonian, and it just happened. I mean, I was very much interested in entomology. I studied it. I collected specimens since I was 8 years old. I reared grasshoppers. I reared praying mantises. All those things.
That's great. So it was interesting to see the computer technology in 1996 that you focused on at the beginning. What did you think of today watching this video again after a while? I know it's been quite some time since you've seen this footage. What stuck out?
Gee. Just everything. I don't have specialties. I just like to do it. I just like to record special things.
Mm-hmm. What was it like to work here then? You mentioned in the video while talking to ornithologist Roxy Layborn that when you came, they thought you were a man.
Yes, when I walked into my boss's office, he says, "Oh, I thought you were going to be a man." They just, I don't know, the spelling of my French name, I guess. I just don't know.
Mm-hmm. There's been a lot of growth at the Smithsonian since 1971. What's been the most surprising thing, interesting thing that you think has happened? I know it's very hard to pick just one. I noticed that you had said in the video when you were talking to Roxy that this is a very liberating place. But a lot has gone on since 71, since 96.
Well, I like the opening of the Naturalist Center and the Discovery Room, and the building of the Museum Support Center in Silver Hill. Those were all big events for specimens and specimens being handled and studied by young people.
Mm-hmm. Right. And you had a few things you wanted to also share with us today.
Yeah,
some images. Yeah.
To make a few comments about the film and that time. Oh, beginning with beginning with that November 1974 torch photograph I'm in as I won an award for a photograph, a color photograph in that year from Jamaica. The torch was received by all staff in those days. Hard copy, of course.
Right. Now it's online. So photography in addition to doing videos. That's great.
Yes, more recently, 1988, the Mary Livingston Ripley Garden was dedicated to the Smithsonian. This is a garden that I pass through all the time to get to the National Gallery where you are. And it was in the video several times. The one with the fountain. The fountain is in Mary Livingston Ripley Garden. She's the wife of the secretary at the time. She gave a wonderful presentation and did many other things.
Yes, what I also picked up on in the video as well, just the little snippets of conversations, people, somebody noted that the garden had been closed. So, at that point it was getting dark and they probably wanted people to stay out while they were preparing for the big fireworks show. And then just, somebody was excited to it seemed like they were excited to see the fountain at the Hirshhorn Museum. It's a really, really enjoyable special video.
Well, thank you. Thank you. In 1838, James Smithson bequeathed over $500,000 to the United States for an establishment for the increase and diffusion of knowledge. The year I arrived from Ohio State University to entomology in the Natural History Museum in 1971 was the 125th anniversary, just by chance, of the Smithsonian Institution. And serving for 20 years as the 8th secretary of the institution, S. Dillon Ripley, an ornithologist, had been appointed in 1968. Both the Discovery Room and the Naturalist Center and the Museum Support Center building were all dedicated at that time during his tenure. The two-story, 4.5-acre support center was dedicated in 1983 in Silver Hill, Maryland. Preserved species include everything from whales to mosquitoes, and I remember them well on my visits. In those early years, delicious egg omelet brunches were often served in the commons in the west side of the castle. You could see in the the camera was looking west. More recently, occasional attendance of scientific presentations in the historic lecture room in the tower have been most appreciated. The office of James Smithson is in that tower. The castle was the source of the torch, the newsletter that you saw. And Mary Ripley, the wife of the secretary, has that beautiful garden there as a walkway back and forth. So the opportunity to videotape the 150th anniversary fireworks in 1976 was indeed an honor. Colors in the fireworks are the result of chemical changes, and James Smithson was a chemist and a mineralogist, signified in the Smithsonian seal of blue with golden starburst.
Very nice.
I got many of my facts and ideas from this book by Alice Yolkeson.
What's the name of the book?
This is the National Museum of Natural History, 75 years in the Natural History Building.
Great.
Very good book.
Kira, do we have any other questions?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for everything you guys have shared so far. There are a couple of questions we've gotten from the audience, and of course, I have questions. One of them was, are films like this made available to the city historians of Washington, D.C.? There were a couple of remarks in the chat about how things have changed so much since 1996 and how this is things like this would be helpful for people to see. Do either of you know of any attempts to actively provide footage like this raw footage of DC to DC historians?
So, if researchers are interested, they certainly can come to us at the archives and reach out to us. And then we're able, with our wonderful reference team, to, help them find what kind of videos they may be interested in. We are going to be putting this video up on YouTube as well on our Smithsonian Archives channel, so it will be available there too.
Another question did the full video include any of the many excellent free concerts that were there that day, that were on the mall that day?
So from what I have seen of the screening of the full video, there were snippets here and there. And at the end with the fireworks, the full fireworks, there's Ray Charles, but obviously we can't rebroadcast that because we don't have the rights for that. Mignon, did you shoot additional footage? Do you recall? Did you get any of the full musical performances of anybody?
I remember actually going up on stage and being encouraged to stay there and videotape the audience as well.
Oh, nice.
After I videotaped the performers, but I don't know if it was that occasion that day.
Okay. Okay. Any performers that stuck out that day? Can you recall?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Long
Sure.
ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure there was a lot going on that day. It looks like you were all
Yeah.
over at the mall. Which
Yeah.
is
It looked
quite
like a
the feat in and of itself.
very full day for you.
Yes, absolutely. Mignon, you mentioned that you started the Smithsonian in 1971. What about the Smithsonian has kept you coming back for so many years?
It's my dream. It's exactly what I would have wanted to do. It's just marvelous. I mean, Washington, D.C., first of all, is great. I came from small town Mansfield, Ohio, about 50,000 people. So being in Washington, being in the nation's capital, but being in the Smithsonian yet, oh, you know, it's just doing field work and finding my husband there. Oh, it was all just wonderful, just wonderful. I'll be there forever.
How has your work in entomology changed over the years since when you first started here?
Well, there were lots and lots and lots of insects being accessioned into the collection. And we were describing new species all the time, just rapidly. And doing lone specimens back and forth to help in identifications, and preparing insects it's just a lot of work. And finding space for all of these specimens. And we just accession thousands and thousands and describe, thousands of species, new species. And there aren't as many coming in anymore. And there's, those are the times.
One more question about your time. I noticed in the plaque for Mary Livingston Ripley's garden, that it said she was the founder of the Smithsonian Institution Women's Committee. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about, what was it like being a woman at the Smithsonian in 1971? You had mentioned that they thought you were a man, and that it was sort of, when your conversation with Roxy, you mentioned that it was sort of like you were new to have women in the field in entomology. Were there any other changes at the Smithsonian that happened during your time or after, that sort of much more directed at like women in the workplace at the Smithsonian?
No, that's what I like about the Smithsonian. It is pure, dedicated science. And we study all these insects that are male and female. I mean, but it's just pure science. That's our interest. That's our focus. That's every day the way we live. And it takes specimens out of the food web to put them in the museum. It's very important to preserve these specimens and these species.
That's fantastic to hear. I know that that's not always the case. So I'm really glad that that was your experience at that time. Pivoting a little bit, Linda, you mentioned that you knew Mignon was behind the camera because her name was written on the DVD. How common is that? And how do you go about doing the research when that information isn't present?
So yeah, that's a good question. A lot of times, we're dependent on, and this can be with any, type of digital material. If it's a an image. Sometimes there's embedded metadata, which is very helpful, who will let us know who the photographer was. But, we can start off with, knowing what museum something may have come from, which person, we know who's done the transfer, and then reaching out to them to see if they can provide us more information. But sometimes, yeah, we just don't know.
How is the archives collecting and recording how the Smithsonian celebrated its 175th anniversary?
Good question. So obviously 175 looks very different from 150. We were not able to have a big national mall celebration last year because of the pandemic, but the Smithsonian has been doing a variety of other things. Last year there was a celebration. It was a webcast. We have a Smithsonian 175th website. It's si.edu/175. And the way we're preserving some of these materials for these websites, we do what is known as web crawling or web captures. So essentially they're snapshots, moments of time of what we have. We also expect to, receive some of those videos as well from the offices that made them. Thankfully, they should be easy file transfers and not have to deal with some tape or DVDs that may be hard to retrieve information off of. So we are documenting that as well.
So with Born Digital Video, why don't all Born Digital videos just immediately get put online?
So there are issues of accessibility. We just can't slap Born Digital videos up. We need to have captioning and description. Again, there could be restrictions on video that we may not be able to post something right away, or there may be rights that are associated with it, as we talked about with this video, with recording artists. So we're not able to do that. But there's a lot of work that needs to happen before you can just put some videos online. Over time, we're trying to share more of our Born Digital videos through our YouTube channel. And we're hoping to do that with a project that is the Smithsonian Astrophysical Observatory Science Media Group. This was a program that ran for about 15 years. And they had sent their collections to us a few years back, nearly about 7 terabytes of data, mostly video. So over time, we're working on sharing more of those gems as well.
That's fantastic. I don't see any other questions in the Q&A. So I'm going to wrap us up a little bit early, unless there are any final thoughts. Like everybody, a last second to get your question in there. But in the meantime, I just want to say thank you to both of you for presenting in our final presentation of the Film Fest. And thank you to everyone who has attended this and all the other programs that we've had over the last 13 months. It has truly been a pleasure and a privilege to be able to share our AV collections with you. I see this stuff really regularly, and I'm glad that that other people get to share it and enjoy it now, and that we're able to hear some of these fantastic stories from our experts and tie them into our collection materials as well. So thank you, Linda and Mignon, for sharing your knowledge and expertise, and thank you to everyone who attended.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's been an honor.